Fire up the grill, start the car. The IPL is ready to roll again. Hello everyone and welcome to IPL Weekly. I'm Barry Wilkinson. Thank you so much for joining me here on FlowSports. It is the cricket program where we look back at the Indian Premier League, the biggest cricket tournament in the world that went on a break after May because of the dreaded COVID-19 in India. Well, they're back in the United Arab Emirates, ready to roll again. 1 week has gone since the CSK and Mumbai played a thrilling finish. And we're going to look at what the West Indians in particular are doing at the IPL. I've got some good friends to join me. Aaron Valls, who's covering the tournament, Mr. Cricket Connoisseur. And we also go to Georgetown, Guyana. They have been following the IPL with a keen eye because Shimron Hetmar, of course, is playing and doing a pretty good job. Unfortunately, Shafane Rutherford has had to come back to Guyana. We're going to hear about that because his father unfortunately died. And we do extend our condolences as Shafane has to head back to GT. All of that to come in this IPL Weekly. First of all, gentlemen, it's so good to see you. Aaron, you're covering the tournament and we've had some really good performances from the West Indians, those who have been getting the game because Chris Gayle, for whatever reason, seems still not to be playing for the Punjab Kings. Let's rewind the clock and come right updated to what's happening today. CSK versus the Mumbai Indians to kick things off after so many months of no Indian Premier League. And what a match it was. Let's look back at the West Indians who did very well. We start first of all with none other than Dwayne Bravo. Now this is a man who, of course, when he played, won the tournament or helped this team to win the tournament. I'm talking about the St Louis Patriots in the CPL. And his performances seem to be getting better and better. And once he's fully fit, we've seen the best of Dwayne Bravo. Aaron, as you watched him, 23 and 3 for 25, his performances at the IPL have been scintillating so far.
They have indeed, Barry. They've been absolutely fantastic. And to be fair, most of the West Indian contingent so far have been absolutely fantastic, which is no surprise. I mentioned this in the preview about this West Indian contingent. 12 players, of course, Shafane having to unfortunately go home. But the majority of these players have been playing in the CPL. They've got that T20 form under their belt. And Dwayne Bravo was absolutely fantastic in that first game, you know, changing up the pace, getting key wickets, really putting a stranglehold on Mumbai in that game. So Dwayne Bravo, we all know what he's about. As you said, Barry, was integral to the success of the St Kitts and Nevis Patriots in the CPL. And I've absolutely no doubt they'll go on to achieve many more great things for the Super Kings.
What is it about the energy of Dwayne Bravo, in your opinion, that he brings to teams, whoever he's playing for, that just seems to make it magical in his cricket?
Well, I think he's a great leader. He's a fantastic leader of men. And in fact, to go back to a quote from the CPL, and it was from Dominic Drakes, and he had a conversation with Dwayne Bravo, and he said no matter what happened in that final, he would be proud of him. And you look at this CSK group, they're such a tight-knit family, got such a fantastic team chemistry, and you bring in a legend of the limited overs format in Dwayne Bravo. He's played for the team for years as well. Of course, they did have that break in 2016-17, but even then, he lives and breathes the Chennai Super Kings. So Dwayne Bravo is a fantastic character to have in any dressing room. For CSK, he's been a pivotal part of their success in past IPLs. And he's just fantastic to have. He's got that level head, that maturity. He's got that match-winning, character about him. And of course, experience in pressure situations. So to be honest, Barry, any team would be lucky to have him. But CSK in particular are incredibly lucky to have Dwayne Bravo. And as I said, I do think he's going to have a good tournament in 2021.
CSK winning that game by some 20 runs. The Mumbai Indians were captained by another West Indian, Kieron Pollard. Pollard, of course, he was captain of the game because Rohit Sharma had a bit of a niggle and didn't play. So it was the two Trinidadians who were dominating, and it was Dwayne getting the better of Kieron. All right, look, let's go to Akeem Green. He is on the ground in Georgetown. Akeem, unfortunate news about Shafane Rutherford's dad passing away. He's on his way back. What's the mood like there? Because I understand he was a very popular person in Ghana.
Yeah, Shafane and his family they're from East Coast, Demerara, just in the Enmore community. It's devastating to say the least. Quite shocking. I saw a report that he would have died from the dreaded COVID-19 virus. And, you know, in context of how great Shafeen seemed to have a return to cricket, now to lose his father, you know, it's just sad because many of us were seeing a different Shafeen Rutherford coming back, getting into the change of franchises, moving over to St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots, winning the CPL, then getting a gig with Sunrisers Hyderabad in the IPL. I suspected, as later on the tournament, given how the Sunrisers are on the table, he would have gotten a couple of games, and given the form, the maturity he's showing, he could have done great things. And to hear his father would have died, I saw an emotional message from him on social media, him speaking about the fact that his father's been his rock. If you know Shafeen growing up in his community, he's loved by many. It's a close-knit family. Where his father has a business, his cousins, his brothers. So it's kind of a family within a community in itself. So it's very devastating, to say the least, about hearing Shafeen's father has passed away.
All right, may he rest in peace. On the field now, we had a situation where the RCB had a game that was very indifferent against the Kolkata Knight Riders, who, as of Friday, were leading in this tournament. And it was Andre Russell who led the way for the Makeem. How does he seem now to be bowling? Because his bowling seems to have all of a sudden taken over from his batting. He got 3 for 9 and bowled one hell of a Yorker. We're looking at some of the action. How do you assess Andre Russell as he's a key weapon for KKR this season again?
Fit. I know many may seem shocked to hear Fit and Andre Russell go hand in hand, but it seems that break, and before he head into the CPL, that break from the IPL, Andre has come back extremely fit. He looked a quality player in the CPL in terms of his bowling. We know in the past how quick he could bowl. He could bowl in excess of 140 easily, and certainly he looks fit. He's running hard. He's hitting the deck. He's bowling smart. That was a top delivery, top draw to get rid of AB de Villiers. I don't think many were able to dog that one out. So Andre Russell, I know his batting hasn't been offered a lot to do as yet, but I'm hoping that can click. But from terms of his bowling, he seems a young Andre Russell would have seen in the past. Certainly, his fitness has to do a part in that because he's running extremely hard in the crease, doesn't seem to have any niggles on the face, and the body seems to be working well oiled, and it's transcendent to the pace he's bowling and the amount of wickets he's taking currently in the IPL.
Yeah, very well said, Akeem. Now, let's fast forward a little bit. Congrats there to KKR winning by 9 wickets. Then it was Evan Lewis and Nicholas Pooran. The Trinis again. You can't stop these Trinis from playing in this IPL. And it was a Rajasthan Royals up against the Punjab Kings. No Chris Gayle. That surprised many. Did it surprise you, Aaron? And we look at that match when Evan Lewis made 36 playing for this franchise. He looked quite good as usual. His form has been very good all year. And I continue to say he's the best opening batsman we have in the West Indies. Your thoughts on that particular match that was won in a very close fashion by Rajasthan by some 2 runs?
Well, first of all, Barry, what an incredible game of cricket. And we can't mention this game without, missing out the key name of Kartik Tyagi, 20 years of age. He held his nerve absolutely impeccably in that final over, had 4 runs to defend and conceded 1, getting the massive wickets of Nicholas Pooran and Deepak Hooda. He was absolutely fantastic. In terms of the West Indian performances, again, very, very impressive. Evan Lewis just came in with that form that he's carried over from the CPL, looked at home at the top of the order. And then, of course, Nicholas Pooran as well couldn't get his side over the line in the end, but again, looked very, very free-flowing with his 32 from 22 runs. In terms of the big news from that game, though, the omission of Christopher Henry Gayle, the universe boss, as we know him around the world. I'm going to be honest, I was quite surprised, because on paper, when you have a top 4 of KL Rahul, Mike Agarwal, Chris Gayle and Nicholas Pooran, that instills fear and dread into the heart of the opposition. And although Aidan Markram is a fantastic cricketer, he's very much the informed man, has been sensational for the Proteas, I don't understand why Chris Gayle was on the bench. I cannot for the life of me fathom that squad selection. It's Chris Gayle, okay? Fair enough. He's approaching the twilight of his career now, of course he is. He's heading into his 40s, but he's still capable of these massive knocks. So I was very, very surprised. Potentially, the universe boss could have won them the game, of course. Very, very theoretical speaking, but it was a fantastic game of cricket, some great performances from the West Indians, and of course Kartik Tyagi, a name to remember. He is a serious, serious talent in India.
Yeah, well said, Aaron. So Lewis 36, Puran 32, Rajasthan by 2 runs, the closest game that we've had so far. We fast forward now, Akeem, to Sunrisers Hyderabad with Jason Holder and the Delhi Capitals. Shimra Hetmar played in the game but didn't bat. He was needed. Look, I'm worried about Jason Holder. I've said that not only recently, but throughout the entire year. His performances have been kind of hot and cold, even though there's no doubt in my mind he should be on that World Cup squad. But in this particular match, Akeem, sum it up for me. He didn't look himself, none for 33, only made 10 as his team continues to be at the bottom. They lost by some 8 wickets. How did you assess Jason Holder, Akeem, in that particular game?
Well, from a batting perspective, it was difficult. The South African pair, Anik Nokia, Kagiso Rabada, they had everyone number on that day. They bowled very superb with the new ball, very hostile. You would say it was a fresh pitch. They made use of the conditions. So from a batting perspective, you look at his teammates, the class of Ken Williamson, even, he didn't get going. So it just goes to show how difficult it was from a batting standpoint. And then, he came up against some really informed players. I would say, though, that his lengths have been a bit indifferent. He's been either too full, too short. So the guys, if you look at guys who have gotten onto him, look at the shot Pant would have played. Ernie Edens, quite full. Pant smacked him over his head. You look at some of the shots that Shikar would have played against him, back out of point. So I guess he's still searching for that perfect length, if you would say. Maybe it could be fatigue, Barry, because this guy is West Indies premier all-rounder, the world's premier all-rounder. He plays all formats. So it could be that situation where maybe he needs a break because, he's just not looking the Jason Holder we would have seen in the past. That being said, when he last played for West Indies, he looked good, took a 4-for against Pakistan. So, it's just been inconsistent. Maybe it's fatigue. Or, again, some days, Barry, that the batsman can have your ball. They could just torment you in that regards. But I still believe he bowled too much of a searching length, and that was why he had those figures he had.
Aaron, I just want to stick on this point for a little bit. We say fatigue for someone like Jason Holder, but the chairman of selectors actually rested Jason Holder for quite a long time in the home series. He didn't play at all against Australia. I believe he's had enough rest. How much rest would you really need? Do you think it's fatigue? Like you said, in the last game, Aaron, he played for the West Indies. He got 4 for 26. Is it fatigue or is it just a bad day at the office?
It's difficult to say because we don't have Jason Holder here on the show. Okay, we can't ask him face to face.
We'll get him on.
Fingers crossed. I mean, if you do, I'll be there. But in terms of this whole debate with Jason Holder, I think that is a great point from Akeem. I really do think that is a good point. Fatigue, he has to be fresh. Of course, that could be playing a little bit of a role in this performance. But then again, everybody has off games, don't they? It's T20 cricket, it's frenetic, it's fast-paced, it's unpredictable. The fact is, in the next game, Jason Holder could come out and take 4 or 5 wickets. So until we have a better measure of Jason Holder in this year's IPL, give it 3, 4, potentially even 5 games, then I don't think we can necessarily, put a concrete answer on that just yet. But I'll tell you another thing which may actually be playing on his mind. I think Jason deserves to be in that World Cup squad, not as a reserve, but in the main squad itself. And I think that is potentially playing on his mind and could almost be a bit of a mental blockage for Jason Holder heading into this year's tournament.
I agree with you. And I've said that. I believe that's why perhaps during the CPL we did not see the best of Jason Holder, because he obviously would have known that he's not on that World Cup squad, and he really and truly there's no excuse not to have him on. I think that has been playing on his mind. You're very correct. I'll come back to you, Aaron. I'll go back to Akeem. I've got the AVs and AGs. AG, Mumbai versus KKR. Kyron Pollard again versus Andre Russell. Mumbai 155 for 6, KKR 159 for 3. Russell didn't get any, none for 37, but Pollard got a very breezy 21. Let's assess his performance before we look back at how Rohit Sharma did, because he seemed to have come back with a bang for the Mumbai Indians, even though they continue to lose as well.
Yeah, Pollard came in at a ticklish situation. You look in the context of he got out at that point in time, it could have been, I wouldn't say game, set, and match for the opposition, but it could be a much more difficult task for them to get up to that kind of substantial total. But then KKR simply blasted away with some exceptional batting on the top. But again, Pollard has been one of the most consistent all-rounders, I guess, in the last year or so, you would say. And he just he didn't look himself. But again, that, as Aaron would have mentioned, that how it goes into 20. Some days you can come and score 60 from 20 odd balls, and some days, you just get 20 and you get your number. But I guess it's a return to confidence. I wouldn't say a loss in form, because we saw in the CPL that he was in good enough nick. So hopefully, as Aaron said, as we go deeper into the tournament, we can really begin to give, I guess, a more comprehensive and unbiased assessment of how these guys are really performing.
Aaron, I asked you this question about the West Indies and the IPL. Are they peaking at the right time? They're going to be based in Dubai for another, 6-7 weeks with the IPL, with the World Cup right after the IPL. Is this tournament going to really give them that feeling of playing home, as they, with the rest of the top players, will be based there for another couple of months?
Well, I think if you're a West Indies fan, you'd certainly hope so, because that'd be fantastic prep for the tournament, of course, defending champions, the holders, having beaten my country of England in 2016. We won't mention Carlos Brathwaite and that final over against Ben Stokes. But you have to say that will definitely play a role in this year's competition for every single country, the West Indies included. The fact is, these guys have got such a fantastic opportunity now to really come to terms and get grips with the conditions. We've already seen it in Dubai, for example. At the moment, it's looking quite seem conducive. That may change, though. And again, if you're playing in the early stages, you're not going to know that until the latter stages. So for those like Pollard, Bravo, Gale, Pooran, all of this West Indian contingent who are here in the IPL, they will be there to witness how these conditions change. And that will definitely play into the hands of the West Indies and, of course, the other countries. So in terms of this IPL, of course, it's important for these guys to get into form, but it's also that acclimatisation. It's getting used to conditions, it's getting used to the pitches. So yeah, absolutely, Barry. I think this is massive for every single one of those players involved. They should be taking this opportunity to learn as much as they can. And fingers crossed for West Indies fans, they can put that into practice come the T20 World Cup.
All right, fantastic stuff there from Aaron Vowles and Akeem Green. We'll come back to them just for a close-up. But when we come back on IPL Weekly, we've got the big Fan Predictor segment with none other than Nikhil Uttamchandani. Stay tuned. IPL Weekly continues.
Ladies and gentlemen, the IPL is finally back, and what a blockbuster start it's been. And since we've had the restart, we've seen some of the most exquisite shots, great timing, and of course, those ruthless wickets. Today, I'm going to be telling you about 3 players you can watch out for over the course of the next 5 days. That is from Saturday up until Wednesday. You've got all the teams in action, and some even in action 3 times, that being the Rajasthan Royals. Let's start off with the batters, of course, and you can't not start at this man. He goes by the name of Shikhar Dhawan. Already getting runs on his return. He's up there in terms of the leading run scorers of this tournament. He's going to be playing twice over the course of the next 5 days up against the Royals and the Kolkata Knight Riders. He's got 422 runs in the tournament. This now is the 8th season where Dhawan has crossed that 400 run mark. Only the 2nd player in IPL history to do so, and it just sort of highlights his dominance over the years in the Indian Premier League, and obviously very unlucky to miss out on that World Cup squad. So he sort of has that chip on his shoulder and point to prove. In terms of his batting index against the Rajasthan Royals, of course, the strike rate and the average combined, he strikes at 160 plus. So always, opposition where he favors and likes to play against. And against the Kolkata Knight Riders, he's been a bit less proficient, only around 148. However, he is playing that game at Sharjah. We know about the small boundaries and the dominance of batters when they get to that venue, so it could be a high-scoring fixture for him. The 2nd player that I've selected sort of to have that impact in the batting department, you've got to go with Sanju Samson. Remember that I told you the Royals will be playing 3 times this week up against the Delhi Capitals, the Sunrisers Hyderabad, and the Royal Challengers Bangalore. And when you look at sort of his 2020 season in the UAE, 381 runs, averaging around 28, while those figures are good, it's not sort of what we expect from a man with so much skill and pedigree. This year, however, he's got off to a really hot start, as he usually does, 281 runs in 8 innings. but he sort of petered out recently. So he'll be looking to pick things back up. He's already got 100 in this tournament, let's not forget. And when you look at his batting index, over 184, it shows you how real dominant this guy can be once he gets in and once he gets a start. So especially with that captain's role now this year, and the Rajasthan Royals being in 5th position, looking for a spot in the playoffs, I expect him with that greater responsibility to step up for his team and go back to the normal player, the explosive player that we expect him to be, batting at number 3. And let's not forget also, the start that Yashavi Jaiswal and Evan Lewis can provide gives him that extra bit of comfort to express himself, to bat a lot more freely. So I think this could be an important 3 games for Sanju Samson. Let's see how he fares. Well, in terms of batting impact, last but not least, I've opted for Mayank Agarwal, just based on what you expect from him for this Punjab Kings team. The Kings, obviously a team needing to get into that top 4 spot. He's got 2 matchups against the Sunrisers Hyderabad, who have shown vulnerabilities in their bowling attack, and of course the Mumbai Indians, who have been a bit up and down in this tournament. So big opportunity for Agarwal. The Indians, a team that he does very well against traditionally. You look at his last scores in IPL 2021, 67, 99 not out, 31, 25, 69 and 22. He's got starts in almost every innings, and we know about the explosiveness with that partnership, of course with his opening partner KL Rahul. So if those two can continue to get the start as well, the Kings could be in an excellent position. He's the 3rd leading scorer in the tournament with 327 runs. He's got a batting index of over 190. So he really is that Mr. Consistent for the Kings. When he's on song, the Punjab Kings always have a chance to win. Well, they say T20 cricket is that batsman's game. However, we must look at the bowlers who are already showing in this IPL 2021 just how important they are, able to pull back games. We just saw Kartik Tyagi a couple days ago. Heroics against the Punjab Kings, defending 4 of the final over. However, I've opted for his teammate. We mentioned the Royals 3 times in action this week, 3 games of course. Chris Morris, who's proven to be that sort of death specialist, maybe one of the best death bowlers in the IPL. In terms of his average and how he's fared this tournament, under 20 he's averaged 19.35, but what stands out to me is that economy rate, just over 7.5. That is stellar for a bowler bowling at those death overs. Of course, when batsmen are going hard at the bowling, he's always been able to control. And where I think he's also benefited this IPL is having the likes of Kartik Tyagi and of course Mustafizur Rahman bowling ahead of him. Chetan Sakari is another, who create that pressure with those dot balls, and then when he comes on to bowl, when batsmen are looking for those quick runs, he always has that knack for picking up wickets. He could be one to watch, so effective with his variation, and he's got, of course, recent success against the Sunrisers Hyderabad, who they will be playing, taking a 4-for, and he's got 12 wickets against that opposition. So I expect him to have a big 5 days. The Royals need it, of course, looking for that top 4 spot, and Chris Morris, well, he'll be licking his chops for that opposition. Secondly, in terms of the bowlers, I'm going with Arshdeep Singh. He's got 2 matches against the Sunrisers and the Mumbai Indians, and already he's lit this restart on fire, already taken a 5-wicket haul, 5 for 32 against the Rajasthan Royals, of course in a losing effort, but what a performance it was by him. What I think has really made him so unique and different is the fact that he bowls in the power play overs and of course in the back end of the innings. With that hard new ball, you see him with a lot of pace on deliveries, but as the innings progresses and he comes back into the attack, you see those variations on display. 3 of his 5 wickets against the Royals were all variations, different slower deliveries, and I think anytime a bowler has that in his arsenal, it just shows how explosive. We know the value of variation in T20 cricket, so he could be one to watch with this next sort of 5 days ahead. He took some big wickets as well. Evan Lewis, Liam Livingston, to name a few. So watch out for Arshdeep Singh. The Kings are under pressure and they need a big performances from him as this tournament continues. You simply can't mention the word impact and not speak about the name Kagiso Rabada. What a start. A restart, I should say, to the IPL he's had, and because of COVID and the IPL moving to the UAE, he may be slightly smiling because in IPL 2020 he took a whopping 30 wickets in just 17 matches, won the purple cap, averages just under 18 in these conditions. He's so effective for the Capitals. He had a slow start to this year's season in terms of just 8 wickets from the first 7 games, but we've already seen his performance since the restart, 3 for 36. He could be one to watch, and one that many batsmen, along with Anrik Norke, will fear facing. No one will want to face Rabada, either with that new ball or at the death where he's so effective. That could be a main component for the Delhi Capitals, and Kagiso Rabada will be looking to strike both against the Royals and the Knight Riders.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you so much, Nikhil Uttamchandani. I want to say goodbye to the guys until next week. I'm talking about Aaron Vowles and none other than Akeem Green. Gentlemen, we look forward to another week of IPL. Before you go, you want to choose any particular matchup for the next week you think is going to be a big one?
I'm going to be honest, Barry. I'm here in my RCB shirt. I have to say, the South India rivalry. Royal Challengers Bangalore, Chennai Super Kings. This fixture means so much. Okay, for those who don't know, domestic cricket as well, there's that Karnataka-Tamil Nadu rivalry. MS Dhoni versus Virat Kohli, 2 incredibly competitive sides. I think that is going to be an absolutely blockbuster occasion. And fingers crossed for my Bangalore boys, RCB can get the win.
And Akeem, any West Indians you're looking for this week?
Hopefully Hetty gets going. I believe it's just critical that he gets in some sort of form as he head into that World Cup. But in terms of my fixtures, well, certainly I'm an RCB fan. I'm looking forward to us getting back on the winning path. And what a team to come against. The mentor for India at the T20 World Cup against the captain of the India team at the T20 World Cup. So that's going to be a blockbuster clash. But from a West Indian perspective, hoping that Hetty is among the runs and he gets into some form heading into that World Cup.
All right, well, it seems I'm the only person who's not an RCB fan, but nevertheless, we look forward to fantastic cricket. That's the main thing. Live and exclusive right here on Flow Sports. For IPL Weekly, I'm Barry Wilkinson. On to next week. Bye-bye for now.